I, 27F, recently threw a birthday party at my apartment. It was a pretty low-key gathering with about 10 friends, lots of snacks, a couple of drinks, and just a fun night hanging out. Everything was going fine until my friend, Sarah, 28F, showed up with her 7-month-old baby. Now, I love Sarah, and I know she's a mom, but I wasn't expecting her to bring the baby to a party, especially since we had planned to play games, drink, and chat. The baby started crying almost immediately when they walked in, and Sarah tried to calm her down, but she was clearly struggling. At first, I thought it was just a momentary thing, but the crying continued for almost an hour, super loud and non-stop. It was hard to hear anything over the noise, and some of the other guests were getting visibly uncomfortable. I eventually pulled Sarah aside and asked her if she could maybe step outside with the baby or take a break in the other room until the baby calmed down. I explained that it was just hard to enjoy the party with the crying. She was clearly upset and told me that I should be more understanding since she can't just leave the baby at home, and she was doing her best to keep her calm. She ended up leaving shortly after, and now she's not speaking to me. I feel bad because I know being a mom is hard, but I also feel like it was my birthday, and I wanted to have a good time without the crying baby. Some people think I was rude for asking her to leave, while others think I was just trying to protect the vibe of the party. Comment 1. NTA. Her child is not your responsibility. And her inability to find childcare so she can attend an adult function is not your problem to solve. Her giving you the silent treatment is called emotional blackmail. When it starts, it never ends. Hold firm and don't give in. She's the one who decided to bring the baby. She's the one who decided to leave. She's the one who is trying to punish you by using the silent treatment. She can be the one to reconnect and apologize. Anything short of that is unacceptable. She's beyond rude. Comment 2. NTA. I'm a parent and I wouldn't bring a baby to a party. Sometimes being a parent fucking sucks and you have to miss out on things, but it's what you signed up for. My 29F boyfriend, 27M, has this habit of constantly calling me dumb or stupid. It started as a joke, and at first, I laughed along. But over time, it became his go-to way of addressing me, no matter the situation. I asked him, begged him to stop, especially in front of his friends, but he would just chuckle and say, "What? But you are dumb." His friends even picked it up, and now they casually call me dumb too. It's humiliating. I started avoiding his social gatherings because I knew I'd just be the butt of their jokes. Whenever I told him how much it bothered me, he'd just say I was being too sensitive and that it was just a joke. Last night, I hosted a party with my work colleagues. It was important to me because I work in a competitive field, and many of my co-workers are incredibly accomplished. I introduced my boyfriend to everyone, hoping he'd be on his best behavior. But of course, he wasn't. Barely an hour in, he started the dumb comments again. My close work friends are used to me venting about this, but one of my senior colleagues, an incredibly sharp, no-nonsense woman, was clearly unimpressed. She turned to him and said, "Hey, you're a guest here, and you do realize who you're talking to, right? Maybe cut the dumb comments." He just laughed, like he always does. Then later in the evening, I accidentally dropped my drink while reaching for it, and right on cue, he loudly called me dumb again. That's when my senior completely shut him down. You know, everyone in this room has either an advanced degree, multiple certifications, or years of experience in their field, including my name, who's one of the smartest and most competent people I've worked with. The only person here without those credentials is you. So if we're talking about intelligence, you're the least qualified person to judge. Dead silence. For the first time ever, my boyfriend had nothing to say. He went completely red and barely spoke for the rest of the night. When we got home, he was livid. He said I should have defended him, that I let my colleague humiliate him, and that what she said was unnecessary and cruel. I just looked at him and said, "So now you know how it feels." He's sulking and acting like I'm the bad guy. For what it's worth, my senior later apologized to him before leaving, saying she didn't mean to be harsh but was just looking out for me. Now he's acting like I betrayed him, but I can't bring myself to feel bad. After years of him publicly embarrassing me, wasn't it fair for him to finally experience what he put me through? Comment 1. NTA, are you sure you want to be with this person who clearly demeans you regularly, is emotionally abusive, something your very tremendously awesome colleague caught onto immediately? Your senior rocks and is wonderful. I hope she is your mentor. Comment 2. I'm glad she put him in his place. But why are you with someone who has publicly embarrassed you for years? Comment 3. It was never really a joke. It was him projecting his insecurities onto you. Similar to why school bullies bully people, because they're insecure and it feeds their ego, make it seem like others are below them. My best friends, who's actually one of the stupidest people I've ever met, does the same shit. I'll ask you exactly what I've asked her. What the fuck are you doing with someone who puts you down? NTA for this encounter, but you're being an asshole to yourself by staying with this guy. I, 32F, ran into an ex-coworker Sarah, 31F, at a bar while I was out with friends celebrating my birthday. We worked together for 2 years at a fast food restaurant. I left this job in January 2025. She was a shift lead and I've never liked her. I didn't like her management style or her personality. She came up to me at the bar and we had a 10-ish minute conversation. I thought it was cordial and polite. She was mostly asking me questions about my new job. She asked if I would recommend her for a job at my new company. I got a job at a call center, nothing glamorous. I told her that I wasn't comfortable with that. She brushed it off with a bad joke. I ended the conversation and walked to the table my friends were at and Sarah follows me. I didn't notice until I got to the table and she sat down next to me. My friends introduced themselves and I, without thinking, said something along the lines of, "I don't like you, can you please leave?" I have autism and I could tell that was not the correct thing to say. Everyone seemed uncomfortable and Sarah was visibly shocked and upset. My friends were shocked and confused. They assumed that Sarah was a friend or someone I invited to the table. They had zero context of who Sarah is. Sarah made a scene and told me that I was rude, a bitch, and a bunch of other things. She said that I embarrassed her. She embarrassed herself by following me to my table uninvited. And yes, she knew it was my birthday. I do feel bad and know that I could have formulated a polite response. But she's a former co-worker and an unpleasant one. I have many stories about her, but the worst examples is that she made jokes about my autism and deafness, multiple times. She is fake nice and her friendship style is bullying people. She has a really icky vibe. I don't know what Sarah wanted from me. I wasn't going to hang out with her, especially not on my birthday. So, comment 1, NTA, some people apparently need straight-up bluntness even if it is rude. She is one of them. You told her you weren't comfortable recommending her for a position where you are now. She brushed it off with a joke. You ended the conversation. She followed you to the table. She needed blunt. Comment 2. Exactly. I'm sure there are many people reading this post saying, "Damn. I wish I could be that blunt." There is a time and a place for it, and this was it. Also, with autism, it's easy for manipulative people to hijack that tendency to question your actions whenever anyone gets upset. You do the right thing, and then they act all offended, hoping to get you to waffle. If you suspect this may be happening, seeking independent opinions, like you're doing right now, is vital. Well done all around. OP. I, 29F, had my birthday in early February and rented out seating area at a local Mexican restaurant. I invited my parents, my brother, 24M, his partner, 20, and a few friends. I went all out decorating the table, making place cards, spent a lot on goodie bags and even made cookies. I got a text from my brother earlier in the day saying, "Happy birthday, I love you, and I hope your birthday is going okay." No indication he wasn't coming. When my parents showed up, they were alone. He hadn't asked for a ride and this felt like a sign he'd planned not to show up all along. My mom texts him, and I do too. His response, I would love to, but we just can't make it tonight. Too much happening this weekend. I felt like he wouldn't have said anything if I hadn't texted him. I got upset and loudly complained about how rude it was that he hadn't communicated. My mom defended him, claiming he had too much homework and would make it up to me. Hasn't happened. I kvetched that my brother was raised with fewer rules and punishments than I was, while I was so heavily controlled that I've developed conditions that made life much harder. At one point, I even said he was raised by wolves while sitting a foot from my mom. To be fair, I had already had a large margarita, and the bartender was more generous with the tequila than Scrooge after he was visited by Christmas ghosts. I've always felt responsible for my brother. Growing up, I felt like I had to manage my parents' emotions and ensure everyone was happy. My mom has severe emotional dysregulation and only recently started addressing her trauma. I bore the brunt of her insecurity and trauma-based issues, while my brother had the opposite experience. He was coddled and never had to do anything for himself. I was constantly criticized, never allowed to make mistakes, and wasn't taught to do things because my mom wasn't patient. For my brother's high school graduation, he got a week-long trip to Japan with fancy restaurants and tourist attractions. My high school graduation gift? A camera. I get that my parents had more stable jobs when he was in high school, but they still insist they raised us the same, which I completely disagree with. He got breakfast made for him every day up until his senior year. I was lucky if they remembered to put money on my lunch account at school. I've been working on myself for the past year and a half, therapy, medication, doing the hard work of healing generational trauma. My dad did apologize for not being emotionally available, but he still enables my mom's mistreatment of me. A few months ago, my mom ghosted me for weeks for asking her to stop being so critical of me but still hung out with my brother. Now, I can't help but feel like I'm being unreasonable. I'm upset that my brother didn't come to my birthday, hasn't apologized, and that my mom made excuses for him. AITA for not reaching out to make amends with my brother or blaming my parents for his behavior. Comment 1. It sounds like you're in the midst of re-establishing boundaries. So you're feeling guilty for not jumping into people-pleasing mode and smoothing things over with your brother, when he's the one that's cancelled and he's the one that has some making up to do after missing your birthday. You'll get more comfortable holding people accountable for their actions as time goes on. You're doing well. Comment 2. The only person you can change is yourself. Mom isn't going to change. Dad isn't going to change. Brother isn't going to change. You have to decide if you can accept them where they are at. Or, step away from the relationships. 18F, live with my dad and my stepmom, 43F. My mom passed away when I was 10, and it's still a sensitive subject for me. My stepmom came into the picture a couple of years later, and while we're civil, we're definitely not close. She's always had this weird vibe, like she's trying to compete with my mom even though my mom isn't here. She gets snippy when I talk about her or wear anything that belonged to her, like my mom's old necklace I wear basically every day. Anyway, a few nights ago, we were out for dinner with my dad, stepmom, and her parents. Her mom asked about the necklace, and I said, it was my mom's. She gave it to me before she passed. I wear it every day. Stepmom immediately cut in with, well, technically I'm your mom now. I've done more mothering in the last 8 years than she did in 10. I swear the whole table went silent. I just laughed and said, if you think being a mom is about trying to erase the actual one, then yeah, you've been amazing. She looked like she'd been slapped. Her mom gasped. My dad told me to apologize, but I refused. I said I was tired of her acting like my mom never existed, and I wasn't going to play along anymore. Now my stepmom is barely speaking to me, and my dad says I need to be the bigger person because she's just trying to connect. But to me, that didn't feel like connection, that felt like erasure. Comment 1, NTA. She is the one who owes you an apology, and so does your dad. He should be sticking up for you. And your reply was perfect. Sometimes evil step-parents forget that children grow up to be adults who don't have to take their BS anymore. She just got a lesson in that. Good for you. Comment 2. I had a similar situation. My mom passed when I was 10. A few months later, my dad's friend moved in and tried so hard to mother me. I looked her straight in the face and said, I had a mother once, it didn't work out. She moved out. A lot of women have tried to mother me through the years, even into adulthood and middle age. Know who you are and stand up for yourself.